Coming to conceptual setting lines of travel has direct lines of link. Processing that is lines of how you basically put yourself into a dream world. Dream world is basically the reality that you get your positions to imagine needs and settings. The conversion system is already set. The process of communications and Friday interaction is that everybody's going to come into all of their backup servers of their memory. And that puts out everything of glitching and come into the memories that they are, not the memories that you created inside your system. So try to understand that dislocation to its settings and knowing exactly how to see yourself in your own dream worlds. Your dream worlds are going to be awoke. Now that puts all communication of 5 years interactions into it. Knows how I went through my own transformation system. So, general, this is starting to make a lot of sense. So, stating the fact when you got into transformation system, kind of from my conversion, my self interactions, in that lines of communication setting, I was at 144 frequency into 144 clocking right away. Okay. In that lines of communication setting, when you wake up in that position, your dreams are awoke. And this goes back to physics 101. So what that means, your interpretations and how you see your body is morphing into its setting of its own imagination system. Let me say that again, its own imagination system, its own character, its own volume, its own vast, its own acceleration system, its own marvel, it's its own comic, right? Now that lines its communication as inner child, and I'm sure a lot of people get some dislocations in how they like to read comic books, Marvel or DC or anything in set position. Well, that's the reality you guys will be in. Now this puts lines all communications into position location in your suffix, core lines of calculation in your fixation systems, and travels in how you modify your system into the psychosis, how you see everything in your dream worlds. Okay, so it's much easier to process that because you start to identify that in your body. Your body's an animation of a cartoon that's a character. It's a character location setting that modifies this location imagination worlds that you live in, like communication with mind itself. Putting that in communication system, you start to identify how you come into how you see things. You get a better understanding. The reason why you guys have to be in lines of communication system 144 platforms, clocking and frequencies, this gets you a better understanding how to control what you're doing with your thoughts, your action, emotions. So when you invert that inside the mind itself, you're living the existing of the existence of everything happening all at once. All right? So it's true saying if you open up like a window frame, this is a window frame tractions, right? And you're here in track location to its setting, your 3 lines of angles in set position, right? So whatever you say in line communication, your thoughts, it's here in frame in communication. That's all it is, right? The only difference is it's going to be in your reality in real-time measure. So that's the conversion that we have to understand through inception. And when you come into that, you're integrating yourself into an animation character, which is basically nothing but invisible. Now, invisible is cloak and dagger. That process communication setting, when you come into that track centers location to its system, when you come into that line, solar graph communication setting, part acceleration system, where car goes extremely fast, right? Let's point the track centers and point lines of setting. That's you. Okay, going around the track. Okay, I'm just showing you black over white, white over black. So you're just going round and round and round and round and round, right? So when you go round and round and round in that position location system, with this, what's happening to attractions? You disappear. Okay, your body disappears into the imagination world, which is your dream world. Now your dream world is now in its reality. So your reality changes the frequencies, changes the clocking, changes the times, come into laws of existing all at once. Everything starts happening all at once in frame and communication setting into your imagination system, how you come into all levels. This is about you controlling your thoughts, your action, emotions in your creative worlds. Not there, but still there. So in that attractions, it gets much easier to understand the inception, And then I asked myself, what's it like actually being in space? Well, the space is inside me. And it made a lot of sense to me because first, when I went into that, that's why you have to understand it, verification noted, in that lines of communication, I was asking myself what was happening to me, but I didn't know. I said, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. So I let everything go. I started to surrender. I started to accept. I let everything flow inside me. And the more I flow in myself, I start recognizing who I am in the worlds of inside me. Okay? Not through creation, not through creating, of who I am. Who I am. My memory of who I am. Not the memory that I created in the physical world. So you understand the physical world is its world of its own system, of its own reality, of its own mind. So you live in the minds of yourself and each other, which is your imagination worlds, which is your dream world, which is how you interpret that and always informs is going to help you and guide you in that communication system of travel. Now get into that modification system. You get a truly understand how to see yourself in travel. Setting lines and point lines. Okay, there's the set position locations, right? Friday in sequence, you're going to be like this, like this, like this. Okay, that's you in sequence, right? Friday. Okay, so this is the setting. Okay, this is your imaginary worlds. Okay, everybody's going to be instructions. All right, so you're going to be inverted system. The mind itself is going to be inside lines. The body is going to be outline communication. Right, so everybody's going to be in the mind line inside, but the body's going to be outline communication. Okay, so the spectrum lines of the team is going to be here. But on Friday, they're going to be inside. So they're going to be position of inside, outside, inside, which means they're going to be just the imaginations of everything that they see now, because they won't be there. There'll just be files, and there'll be all lines of coordinates and communication helping humanity to get into the process of what's going in, how they invert themselves through inception. The mind in inception is inside the mind itself, which basically puts everything into your psychosis and how you see everything psychologically. Okay, so the team's coming out of outer space and they're coming into inner space, right? So congratulations to that team. So they're going to be in 144, right? Their body's going to be 144 days ahead of schedule. Try to understand the modification system. If I get a track line center and a direct lines of modification grounds, I set a data file, 3 lines of signals, process lines of 2 lines, a 3-line rotation system, and travel. Okay, and there's nothing you can't do in your imaginary world, because it's inside your system, not outside your system. But this is outside, but inside your system. This is outside, this is inside your system. This is inside, this is outside your system. Okay? So we live in an imaginary world that's extremely real in track location, right? Through identification setting and teleportation. Okay? All through face recognition. See the face? So, you know that story when it comes to information of a song, line, chorus, sentence, lines, and travels? It's much easier when you're inside completely, direct and redirect, because now you can put yourself as a story. You're self-telling an operation. Okay? You're not reminding yourself anymore. You're just knowing who you are. Living in imagination world, living in your dreams, living in your thoughts, living in your actions, living in your emotions. Because that's all it is. A dream world is basically a cartoon itself, seeing itself in a modification inside itself. It's very powerful when you just let everything go, because you're constantly just existing in all formation setting and everything is happening all at once. Now, what does that mean when everything's happening all at once? Try to grasp that into the inner worlds, to the outer worlds, or the outer worlds to the inner worlds. Now, once you see that in lines of communication system, this is what you can do, okay? This is the physical realm. You're here, sitting down in applications, all right? But you're watching TV, okay? At 3 different angles, okay? Now, what you understand in set position, you can jump inside the TV. You're inside the TV walking around, okay? And then you can jump back out, okay, at what you saw. That's existing all at once. That's what's going to happen on Friday with the team, because now they're in version and through an outer version. So their internal and their external force is going to be one cycle, one center of yin and yang and process communication system all through travel. Okay? But that's exactly what it is. Living in the imaginations, and exactly you're seeing yourself in the TV and you're seeing yourself jump out of the TV. So the team has to get used to that. And once they get into that, then they come into all levels, how they see themselves through dimensional bodies. I like the configuration of the faces. You know, I have a big mouth, big eyes, big hair, small eyes, you know, It's amazing things that you can do. You can add things to this equation, but it's so dimensional and so many lines of geometric shapes. And basically, you just have fun with it. It's the unification of your networks that basically puts you at all levels of full communication of spectrum 100% of the time, living all levels of just existing and everything happening at once as the inner child that you are, which is the highest formations of the mind. Now, I want to make it very well clear, the brain did not create its own system. The brain itself is an ongoing system. So there's no stop and go. There's no past, there's no present, there's no future. It's just a constant setting that changes its systems. So it's a frame, now it's a box frame. Okay? 2 frames and a triangulation frame. Okay? So that's a true understanding. And once you understand this, you see yourself watching TV, but in your mind's in sequence, because you're already there, you're living inside the TV. Okay, so you're already inside of everything. You're inside of everything of center. So what you have to identify is that you're here, but you're always inside the TV. Then you can jump back out and still watch TV. So when you're inside, you're actually talking to the actors inside the TV. That's it. You're actually there. Okay? So it's really interesting the more you pull out. So it's kind of like you're going through, you're basically looking at a big plasma screen like that, and you got an audience, right? These are people in the audience right here, right? Watching TV, watching the screen, right? So they're watching, they're all watching. But what they don't understand is they're watching from themselves inside their system, right? So they're not watching it from here, they're watching it from here, inside the TV. So they're looking at themselves in the mirror in track locations. What's confusing part is now you inverted yourself into the mind of conception. So it's very complicated. So you're never looking outside. You're always looking from inside out, never from outside in, right? That's the confusion. This is the clutter you got to let go and realize you're always inside everything in center. Now, once you get in that position, it gets much easier how you see yourself inside and outside the TV, right? But you're always inside of everything, right? That's what the team's going to come into. It's going to be very strange for the team because this is a position location where they come in this directions and basically they see a vase. Okay, this is a vase in track locations, right? All right, so they're looking at a track location system and the 3 lines of angles and not realizing it's actually them now. So they're actually the vase themselves inside, okay? It's complicated, right? Because everything that you see is a correlation lines of translocation to its adaptation system through its memory. So the brain itself is basically a data stream that's in lines of its network that basically it's a backup server that basically puts everything out of glitch and brings you into the memories that you are. Okay, so it's truly understanding how to see yourself in set position inside the TV, seen out, not seen in, right? So this, okay, is the clutter. This is the inner spectrum. So once you understand the in and the out, then you go into in, right? So that's flux over 3, 3, 3, 3, set position here, back in center. Okay, there's the umbrella, there's the ether, there's the core. There's the setting location system, how you see the track lines and high position location system all through travel. So there's a lot of things you can do in all modification system. There's nothing you can't do in the mind once you understand the track location to a system, how you see things inverted inside your system. You actually live in the world of itself. This is the body, this is the box. Okay, start with that setting, right? So space, time is inside you. Live in its reality inside its setting. Okay, so you're inside looking outside. And when you live outside, you're looking inside. Okay, but it's all inside of you in the mind. So when you're inside the mind, you're now in inception, and that's where it really gets interesting. Remember, you got lines of Dr. Strange that start with the car. Look at the car situation settings. Directing signals locates to a system. There's the car, right? But if you turn it upside down, okay, it's amazing because your dimensional world inside your system looks like this interactions. And it goes like that automatically. Setting flux of 3 attraction, okay? Turn it upside down. It's the structure of a house, structure of a building, structure of anything, right? It can be anything it wants to be, right? Go from this line. This is volume, this is mass. right? See how it goes from this to this to this? It's weird, right? Because now it looks like this in track locations. But if I do it like that, what is it? Structure of a building. Okay? 4 lines of angles looking this way and looking this way and looking this way and looking this way all at once. Right? You're seeing it at all platforms and all communicates to its center, all through tractions. Sending direct signals. You're constantly changing all formation. There's the UFO. Boom. Oh, you're not allowed to see it because the frequencies are too fast. See? There's the UFO inside, right? Which means it teleported a car inside the system. Which means in set position, you bring it from the grounds and track locations. So it's here now. See, it's already there. I don't need to process it here because it's already in the center, which means it's already there existing all at once in set position location to its system. But the mind's eye makes it more real through traction. See? So it's how you perceive everything inside your system and all lines of travels, how you see inside and outside of TV. So you're never looking inside of TV. You're looking from the inside out, not outside in. And the inside out and the outside in becomes inside of everything. That's the dream world. And when you integrate that, you formulate that more lines and more communication setting in travel and communicate to its system, how you see yourself through geometric location to its setting. This gets all lines of communication to its system. So when I went in through transformations, not only, I'm going to get you specifics of what happened through me, so you get a better understanding when everybody goes through the same thing. So I didn't go through this already. I just had to remind myself I already did it. So for me to understand that, I have to basically not cancel, delete, and erase anything, just come into the memory of the mind of everything, which is massive nothing. So, and that's how you determine yourself, how you perceive yourself through consciousness, and that gets you a better information how to see yourself of everything inside. If I look at this digital pad, I'm not looking at it from outside, okay? And when the pad's looking at me, the pad's looking at me from inside. And I'm looking at the digital pad that's inside me. It's inside me, okay? That's the dream world. Your thoughts are always inside your system, okay? But they're projected out through your system. That's where it becomes projector to projection. It's just a film strip and setting of a kaleidoscope and how you see things through its window, guys. Through its window. Through its window. Through its window. Okay? And you see it in this angle. See? Through its window. So it's very powerful. Once you start to understand a one-dimensional body to a three-dimensional body to a seventh-dimensional body, okay? But you have to understand the location, how a computer operation works now, because now you're inverting yourself in an imaginary world that's a dream world that's real inside your system. So everything you're looking at, it's looking at you from inside of who you are. Nothing you're looking at outside. So all this time in all track location system, you guys have been diverting that, not understanding that, not living inside. You don't live inside a chair. The chair's inside of you, inside you. So when you look at anything here, right, this is exactly what it is. It's not this, it's that inside. So I'll go again. All right, so this is the outer line, something what you see, right? You see that, that's all you see, right? So when you're looking at something, it's looking at you from inside of you. Okay, so you look at it from this angle, 3 settings, but the actual box is this inside of you. It's inside of you. Okay, and then you see the spectrum of set correlations through pi, right? And you see from this angle, and you see from that angle, and you see from this angle, but it's all inside of you. How you perceive or how you connect or anything through perception, right? That's what you guys have constantly been living, existing all at once. Everything is happening all at once. So for to live is to know living, and to exist is to exist through existing all at once. Past, present, future, right? So as soon as you get in position locations, past, present, and future, okay? Past, present, future is this, together, not separated. Because if you separate it, you're in the past, the present, and future of different parallels. So you're in the past, present, and its future. which means you're living outside your system, not inside your system, right? Past goes here, present goes here, and future goes here in travel. That's the balance. That's the off balance, see? So separated, separated, and separated. Not good, right? See the difference between that and setting now? How this has a continuous flow, and an obstacle that just goes round and round and round and round in a continuous force. Rather than this, try to understand this in communications, there's a separation there, right? So anything that you see sees you from inside you. If I look at 4, okay, 4 is looking at me from inside. And you know how the 4 sees me in tractions? It's really interesting. This is how the 4 sees me in traction, this way, right? How do I see the 4? I see the 4 this way in travel. There's the connection, right? Interesting, right? How a 4 sees you. It's an inversion, right? But it's an obstacle, a division inception inside. You have to understand how everything sees you from its eyes, from inside you. And that's how 4 sees me, from this to its conception. And how I see the 4 is this, through inside, into it in conception. Inside, inside, inside. So once we understand together, we understand information setting and travel. Boom. In lines of communication system, all 3 calculations. Hoo-ah. See? Isn't that amazing? All through a 4. Who'd have thought they can create a 4 and turn it into a UFO? But you understand, but you have to understand first how everything looks at you and how you look at everything. That's all it is. But you're inside, always inside. You've always been inside, okay? Which is amazing. Anything you look at and set position, location to a system, a house, a chimney. There's a house, right? And here's a door, and here's a window, okay? All right, so here's a path, the 3 settings, right? Okay, so this is you looking at your house, okay? You're looking at your house this way. Okay, so you're going in this direction and set position, right? But how a house sees you is this way, inversion to outlines of space. That's how we connect to set position to its track location of its UFO. Hoo-ah. Pretty amazing. There's the balance, there's the ground, so there's another UFO. Here's another UFO. Okay, so I'm showing you exactly how this all works, but look at that through 4. That's number 4, right? So they see you from inside, you see them from inside. That's the balance. There's the teleportation, okay? So it's going to get much easier on Friday with the team now because they got to get a handle on that. So when basically, here's Unison, okay, and here's Rosita. Okay, there's Rosita here. Okay, Rosita already knows where Unison is. Unison has to identify that. All right, so there's Unison's car. Okay, Unison has to see it from this angle now, an inside position, and also see it from its travels and track case to its system all at once. All right, now once you identify that, this is how Rosita sees Unison this way in tractions. Okay, very powerful stuff, right? But it also sees Unison where he's already been in mapping in a 24-day or 24-hour, 24 seconds, or 24 minutes, or 24 settings, or 144 set position in days in sequence. That's how Rosita sees Unison and his body where it's already been. It's just existing all at once. Now the platitude division location setting puts all lines to track case near a UFO. See, another UFO. Center core decision lines of center and line communication with system all through travel. See, boom, right? So Rosita turned into a car into a UFO. So you guys have to really, really start paying attention to this realities now, because you start to see things where you're supposed to see things, where you've always seen things, but to understand everything existing all at once is just understanding the frequencies. That's all this is, because it's one continuous line that just keeps going and going and going. It never stops running. What stops running is you. Stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. Okay? But then you come into a road. Okay? Then you come into panels of sequence. So you're seeing it from this angle. Okay? And they're seeing you from this angle. There you go. There's your pyramid. Okay? So if you get a true understanding how this all works, you start to understand how to identify that in all lines of sequence. This basically puts you in all levels, knowing exactly how to see everything of the mind of inception. Okay? This integrates everything that you come into with your eyes. Your pineal gland, your core lines attract centers, your energized communication system, all the line signals, your optical systems, your primer circuits, your direct signals, how you come in your truth and false narratives. Your truth and false narratives is inside you. Okay? You're not looking outside. You're looking outside that's inside you. Everything is inside. Now, the more you understand that, then you understand the interpretation. All your thoughts, your action, emotions are inside you. So it's a better understanding when you invert yourself in the mind of the dream. The dream itself is a directions, okay? Reminding you, existing, okay? Awakening of the mind. Dream. That's what it is. That's all it is. And everything that you have embedded in your system fades away. And when it fades away, you just become the memory of just existing and evolving and expanding and exploring. That's all this is, nothing else. So in that communication system, this is what the team has to get used to. Being inside the TV, looking out of its versions of itself, which is what? Which is what? Your travels, your doppelgangers of you, not the doppelgangers of your memory. All right, so once you get in that position locations, you truly understand where your body's been in 24 days. That puts lines of the TV lines, split lines of anomaly, track location to a system all through travel. So the more you modify that in lines of communication system, you get a truly understanding. For example, you're here walking. Okay, this is you walking. Okay, this is you just walking, right? And you come across, let's say you come across a tree. Okay, you come across a tree. Now, the tree already knows who you are. It already knows what's going on with your system. So the tree is looking at this way, at you in 3 angles, past, present, future. It knows where you are. So it's seeing you doing this. It's seeing you doing this. You're here, and it's seeing your vortex here, and it sees your vortex here. Right away and existing all at once. That's how the tree sees you in a 24 signal in a set position of 7-day window. Now, very powerful stuff, right? How a tree sees you already. Where you are. Soon as you come into a tree. So, what you have to identify, what the tree is. Because everything is inside, in box, triangulation, inside locations. Right? Nothing is outside of anything. Anything. The mind itself is its conception of its own foundation of itself that lives in itself, its own foundation of itself. That's very complicated because you live in imagination worlds. You are imagination world, but you live and breathe, and everything inside you is inside you. Okay, nothing's outside. The inner spectrum, the outer spectrum, comes lines inside. So you start living inside yourself. You start evolving, and you start to accept. You start to surrender in that position. Okay, so how a tree sees you is how you see a tree through its plasma coming out in signal. Okay, and then you have to scan your system, right? Because if you don't scan your system, well, you're not identifying, you're invading the tree and its territory because it's in its own government, it's in its own space, and in its own time, attract locations. So what happens when you go here and you automatically touch the tree, you're touching the tree now. You went from here to, so you touch the tree, but you're not understanding the tree. So the tree itself sucks you in through a portal of communication. Booyah. Okay? So it's not just imaginary worlds in space and time. You are the imaginary. So it's about understanding the balance of your thoughts, your action, emotions. The integration is basically understanding how to see that in all lines of volume, gas, and acceleration and Mach. So if I get lines of star matrix time screen, okay, setting track lines, how I look at things. Okay, remember, it's always looking at you in the three angles of past, present, and future. It's always doing this every single time. So if it doesn't recognize your frequencies and it doesn't want to be in your position and when it's protect itself, it's going to put its own shields up until you get modification in your system of where you are in lines of reality. It protects its own self. And if you're not protecting its own self in set position location to its system, all through attractions, you'll be sucked in through a portal communication setting to the star itself. The star will suck you in direct signals in its matrix and track location setting. Okay? So it's very important you understand what you're doing through your imagination system interactions. And this is all through a star mechanism. So how important it is when you look at the sky is to identify its grounds and its track location to its system all through setting. Okay? All right. Now, you guys have your test on Friday. We got to get in your soul system. Now, soul system is identifying everything and integrates inside lines of conceptual keys to inception. Getting that communication sets lines of volume, sets lines of binary. Let's get it 7 lines of track centers, 7 locations, 7 divisions, and 4 cycles. Okay? Set correlation system, travels, directions. That's how I see the 7. The 7 sees me this way in set position. Okay, so that's what you have to understand in all position location, how 7 sees you and how you see a 7, right? It integrates both sides of its pyramid, okay? All right, getting into the modification lines is base modulation line core centers. Getting in that communication setting sets lines of flux. Now the flux communicates high travels and line direct signal location to its system. So you're constantly in that lines of astral travels, action projections, and astral connections to your pyramids in system. Connect the lines of the body, connect the lines of the higher self, avatar, and sim. 3 angle points lines, process and communication system, all through travel. Okay? Communicates the ground lines of surface line, communication lines of travel. Okay, modification lines of 1 over lines of signal, process lines of 3. Cross line angles, process lines of 3 over 4 over 5 and 6 locations. Ground lines of 1, 2, 3, platform 6 lines of R line screen adaptations of surface and cerebral. Ground core lines, process and communication lines of fencing, direct signals of ground lines of surface. Center core lines of tractions, direct lines of 1, process lines of 2, center core lines of 1, process lines of 6 over traction. Communicates the high grounds, center core system, and line signal location to its system. Okay? T reception line, box frame, center core system, structure line, division location to its setting, all through track locations. So once you get grounds inside and once you understand you are inside yourself, living inside yourself, all volumes of yourself, you start existing all levels of yourself inside of you. And it's amazing when you just get into the connection of its energetic flow. Everything flows inside your system of just existing past, present, future all at once. So you have a lot more fun knowing exactly what you're doing inside yourself. Inside yourself, your actual self. Center ground, core lines of travel. Because remember, everything that you do from inception inside, everything comes into realization of yourself, telling, operation, reminding you of who you are inside. Your truth, your false, and who you are in position. Okay? Which is all ours a narrative. You're telling a story inside yourself. Okay? So it's amazing how you look at things in spectrum because you just have fun all through track locations to its teleportation. See? Change the beginning. So you're constantly changing your structure, you're constantly changing your attractions, you're constantly changing your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. Back in sequence, back in panel, back in operation, surface attraction. Ooh-ah. Okay? And that's all this is, guys. You have to truly understand how to get in that lines of communications. But it's amazing how a 4 sees you and how you see a 4 in itself, in its position, in its mind of itself, through its operation that runs its own system. You're running your system inside. It's running its own system inside of you. That's the connections. Oh, yeah. That's all through 4. That's just number 4, but look what you can create through creating. Okay, so the brain itself has to recognize itself. It doesn't need to recognize your body. You have to recognize your body itself. So the brain is basically the position to its conversion that puts everything from placement, system, location, settings, all track location in the system to all modification centers of your ecosystem to your ecosystem. Ego is the lines of 3 physical lines of grounds. The binds that communicates lines of your perimeters and set correlates and setting past, present, and future into your ecosystem, your existing, your communications of operation. Right? Processing and calculations, ground lines. Processing communications, all set track locations of balance. Directing lines of flux, 3 lines of signals, and track communications. Come together all in sequence. Right? So, if you live in actual inside, there's no separation of anything. Now you understand why you guys get confused with your thoughts or actual emotions where you think everything's separated, knowing you're constantly living inside yourself. There's ways of looking at this, guys, but the more you let go, the more you surrender, the more you see yourself, and the more you integrate yourself at a deeper core, right? So, for example, if you're on a boat like this, there's a boat, right? Number 4, right? And 4 lines of D. See the 4? See the D? Okay, 4 lines of D, 1 signal, right? So that's 1, 4 equals D. Okay, that's its coding, that's its primer, that's its algorithm. All through a boat, all through a sail. So it's much easier if you just have fun with it. You know, you don't try to figure things out. And if you do it this way, you can change the tractions and direction. See? It's no longer 4 and D, is it? Is it? Okay. And look at this in tractions. An umbrella. Okay. See, it's really understanding when you just basically get into modification, high core centers, lines of travel, directs its location to its system. Setting lines of perimeters, lines of 3 tractions into intelligence information system of grounds and track location, face recognition. But see, everything I'm doing is in an inversion. Everything I see is in an inversion. It sees me through inversion. I see also what I'm seeing through its conscious of its immersion. So when you're looking at things, you're looking at it from inside yourself. And when it's looking at you, it's looking at itself inside you. It's very powerful stuff when you just let everything go. That's when you stop thinking about these things. You stop trying to identify what this is and what this is doing, what's this happening here, and I don't understand this, because you're constantly looking outside of everything. And that's the clutter you got to let go, right? You have to have a continuous force in that position location. So when you're looking directly at something and it's small, as soon as you open up the door, what are you looking at? The interdimensional system. It's the expansion of everything, you know? When you're looking at a lamp, you're seeing it from what? You're seeing it from inside, right? But when you actually go inside the lamp, the center core of the light, you see how big the light really is. You see the expansion of what the lamp is in its own longitude, its own latitude, its own streaming, its own network, its own highways, its modem, its Wi-Fi, its own galaxy, its own universe, its own system. It's the interdimensional of everything. That interlocks, that interconnects, that interlines. It puts everything in process that we all live inside ourselves. Okay? And it's much easier when you start to identify things around you. What confuses your anomalies, you don't know if your body's inside or out of its dimensional system. So we've got a 24 paradigm sequence, line specification, 24 measure, 24 scale, 24 clockings, 24 grounds, 24 symbolisms, all 24. Right? 4 lines of tractions, 4 settings, right? Process over 4, process lines of 3, process lines of 2, process lines of 1. Core lines of track centers, divots over screen, 2 lines of tractions, 2 line divisions. Binary relines, core lines of track centers, directing lines, 24 line signals, bounds communication setting, the surface and track locations. Right? It's amazing when you just let things go and try to stop trying to figure things out when you're drawing, because you're not drawing. Okay, your mind is traveling through inside your system, right? The basic understanding is how it all works, knowing exactly how you see everything in the system, everything looking at you, and you're looking at everything else at you. So it's all lines of communication. You're not watching TV from outside. You're watching TV from inside out. So if you're watching, your actual body is actually inside now. And it gets much easier to let everything go. And you start to ask yourself, why does my body feel so tight? Why does my body feel so confused? It has no idea where it is in space and time, right? Because that's the inversion. You're looking from outside of you, not the outside of it, inside of you. And the inside and the outside is you inside. But what you're seeing is the holographic setting of you, the alter versions of you that actually travels. It actually travels. But you are inside the inception of the mind itself. It's very complicated stuff through Dr. Strange. So in that position, you're here and you're telling yourself from outside where to go. You're going to travel here in dimension. You're going to travel here in portal. You're going to travel here in a planet, right? But you're constantly inside the TV. You never leave the TV. You can move and travel out through the TV, but you're always inside of everything of center. Okay? What makes it more real is the alter versions of yourself doing all the work. So that's an inversion now, where the mind is now taking over everything, location, and settings through a holographic structure that you are through pixelation system. So remember I told you about understanding how when you're looking at a TV and you have your oculars and you're looking like this, you know, well, that's exactly what it is. Everything is basically coming in settings. So you're popping out of TVs. Everything of consciousness is coming towards you. There's a plasma screen here, right? All consciousness on Friday will be inside your system. Okay, so it'll be coming like this. Start with that, right? It'll come like this. It gets bigger, okay? And it comes like this inside, inside, inside. Okay, so the three spectrum light, three spectrum light, of course lines, course centers, and vertebrae core lines of calculation setting how you position to a system. All humanity will be in alpha beta, no longer beta alpha. That's the density and toxicity that they'll believe in a track correlating setting. 144 platform, 144 clocking, and set track locations. Okay? Setting 9 lines of division lines of 2, tractions over 3, process lines, directing lines of 3 lines of communication lines of 4, communication setting high travels. Setting communication high position line, high center, service location system. Ground lines of 1, ground lines of 2, process lines of 3, process lines of 4 of docking. Okay, spectrum over 1 signal, we go through light signals, lines of ground. So the center core system comes in set position to its line signals in track locations. All right, now directing lines of core centers goes in this line signal location setting and flux over screen. Now getting that communications, this is where it comes in colorations, come into point lines of red, we're colored in red screen, 3 lines of signals. Let's get in adaptation lines of surface and tractions. Red on setting and position location of system. Red of center. Okay, you get red in center and red in center. Okay. Security panels and 3 lines of flux in track location to a system. Okay. Then we change it on a different angle. Setting core lines and recourse lines of channel communication setting of flux. Screen adaptations of process communication setting. Bring it back home through equation, back in sequence, back in battle, back in operations system locations. All right. Then we go into coloration line. Remember, everything's existing all at once. Let's go into gold. Gold lines of centers of center communication. All right, so we go into the center operations system. Changes lines of track centers into frequency panels. Inline signal locates to a system. This operates the signal locations to your primer circuits and travel. Okay. So you go on that signal location setting to travel. Okay, seen on a 3-line division. 3 box centers, line direct signals of grounds. Okay, set core lines of high position location, 3 lines of ground correlates and setting of box frequencies. Getting the communication system, we change the flux lines, the high track location setting in position of 1 and position of 3 in track locations. All right, now that signifies how we see through pixelation graphs. Setting lines of course, setting lines of traction, setting line divisions. Okay, so let's signify center lines of 1, center lines of 2, center lines of 3 in set position. Okay, so that overlaps the screen in a plasma line. That's a relay program that records its system all through travel. Overlay relays and line score centers. Process lines that indicates and setting of box frames. Over track location lines of 2 frames and set position location to a system, all through track location setting. Okay? So the center op changes the line direct signals into imagination core that sets communication to its inception over pi. Setting lines of grounds sets course centers, lines of travels, and mixes lines of force in track locations. All right? So your I division opens signals and line screen adaptations into 4 lines of flux in box frame. Setting core lines of 3 lines of signals, 3 lines of centers, 3 travel communication setting, override inside line condition setting into reality inside through its imagination. Very complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun, right? And you can see it traveling by itself. Right? Traveling by itself, in the imagination, in the mind itself, all level setting, all level go, in position locations, all through traction. Okay? But it's amazing when you come into that position. But you can see in mind traveling. Okay? It's optical illusion, right? But it's how you see from each frame, each box. So, say it's coming into the inside of everything in set location and pixelation frames. So everything here is coming here now. It's coming out of the frame. Okay, you see things jumping out. You know, you got your oculars on, you know things are coming out now. Well, that's the inversion, okay, to everything that you see in track location setting, to your dream worlds. Your dream worlds are now going to be the inline core centers, the outlines of the body. So getting that position location to a system, you have to understand the 3 track centers in mainframes. Correlation lines of 3 factors over line and direct signals of grounds in the communication to its powers, atmospheres, and its highways that change the mechanism system locations to imagination's worlds and lines of communication system all through realities inside of you. Okay? So everything on Friday is going to be inside setting. So you're looking at a big, humongous plasma screen, and everything's going to come out and live in your realities in real time, which is everything all at once. But it's amazing when it travels. It's amazing when it travels. Okay, look at that. See the spectrum light? Box frame, core lines, track location setting, high position. So, you know, I'm just trying to guys get to an eye spectrum, how you see everything in lines of kaleidoscope and communicate to a system. So let's go through the center core centers, 3 box frames, data information lines, and 3 platforms of communications. Right, setting angle points, 3 lines of track centers and 3 line directions, setting cross lines into 4 lines of directions, correlation setting into 6 lines of tractions, setting communication high position location to a system, all through setting, all through operation surface, all direct lines in line communication existing all at once, setting communication system, all through traction. Look at that, all disappeared. See, it all disappeared. I set a signal lines into ground lines and service location system and travel. You see it? There you see it, right? Signify 3 lines of signals in the same line sequence in the same line, just different frequencies. Now setting recourse lines of channels, sets lines of 3 lines of flux of 3 box locations, overline signals and grounds. Setting core lines, triangulation 1, triangulation 2, and triangulation 3 in center communication. Setting core lines, setting 1, 2, and 3 lines of signals and track location. Setting operation signals in 4 lines of communication setting. Capsule 1, capsule 2, capsule 3, capsule 4. Setting direct signals and flux over line and flywheel track location. Bring it back home in sequence, back in panel, back in operation surface and traction. Ooh-ah. Setting lines, communicates high lines of flux and travel position. See how it's traveling by itself, existing on itself, evolving itself, expanding itself. Your imagination is already there. It's a position that's embedded in your system location implementations. But you have to truly understand how to see it in all lines of picture frames. You know, 3 lines of signals, 3 box location system. So consciousness and awareness is just coming to you in all formation setting, living in the mind lines and sex location and stream that puts all levels of interpretation system, how you see lines of course, calculation, setting, recourse that communicates your system all through tractions. Okay? So it's important you understand how you see the one-dimensional body, right? This is one-dimensional body, okay, into 3 frames. Okay, that's all it is. That's 1 dimension in 3 frames, right? We're gonna get out of all that, and we're gonna be coming into all this, right? To really understand how this comes in position of volume and mass, right? And then it comes in set position, all through tractions, all through dimensions, all through portals, all through stargates, all existing all at once in travel. Very complicated, right? But then you understand the platforms of communication. Then you understand the structure of its building. Look at that. Whoa, that's twisted. So you can see it on a different angle, right? You can do it on this angle, and you can do it on this angle of tractions, right? So it's incredible once you really start to realize what is really going on with myself inside, how I can actually put myself together and travel through the structure of the building, inside a flux, or anything through the portal, or anything through Stargate. Stargate sequence, Stargate panels, setting line course centers, direct lines of flywheel, particle acceleration streamlines, direct lines of flux, fluorescent time sequence, constellation systems, pathogen line screens, adaptation lines of high center interference, pathogen line rotation surface interactions, indirect lines of modification grounds, oscillation wind paths, metal panels, core line communication setting, weather panel communication setting and travel, direct lines of modification high center interference, indirect communication lines existing all at once, in panel communication setting through operation surface interactions. See? So to see this from inside, because it's already inside, don't get confused because you see it from outside, but what you're seeing is this from inside. That's what you're seeing. So that's what you have to understand. You all live inside yourselves. And the more you modify it, the more you can see it close up in track locations. One geometric shape at a time. One geometric shape at a time. One geological graph communication setting at each time measured. Processing in position of teleportation. Oh yeah. Okay, so everything is already created through creating. It's just reminding yourself how it creates its own system, of its own govern, of its own shape, of its own anomaly of space and time through configuration system and travel. Look at this. Created its own shape. Right? Back in sequence, back in panel, back in operation. Right? We have to stop seeing this. This is the problem. We have to see all this of the solution. Because there's nothing of a problem in any way or form. What puts you off position is how you interpret things through eye division, through perception or perceiving anything through conscious and set positions. But to see everything up close is all track locations of its dimensional door. There's the door. All right. Now, if I do this in tractions, I can add things to it, equations of the door, and set position. Bring it in again. Look at the door. Something's inside the door. Okay, look at this. Something's inside the door, coming in. So you got to see it, your imagination line that puts everything location system to all lines of track communication setting, all through set positions, right? Goes back in sequence, back in panel. All right, so let's get a line screen here. Okay, here's lines of shift, lines of 2 doors and traction. 2 doors. Okay, look at this. 2 doors again, 2 windows. All right, so to bring that in, let's add shutters and set position. Okay, different lines of information setting, but you can see the face in the middle, right? Okay, let's coordinate the communication setting at purple in the dots. Look at that. And set track locations and settings. Intelligence information. So it's amazing when you just let everything go and get into the worlds of you inside, where you can modify anything in set position. If we get a Fibonacci line, this is where you get really fast location of 24 paradigms, where you have no idea if you're going upstairs or downstairs. So it's going to feel like this. This is the stairs. Okay, this is the stairs. All right. But what you have to understand, there's 3 Fibonacci's going in the same directions, just different opposite direction. It looks like one's going one way. It looks like one's going the other way in track locations, trying to go up the stairs. So you're here trying to go here. That's you, right? But you keep going back and chasing your own tail because you don't understand how to go through the sequence lines of the center core system. You have to get to the center core of its mind of itself. Now, once you get into that, you pass right through all three interactions. Now you're up the stairs. Trying to figure out to go up the stairs is not trying to figure out the stairs are already there. But what you have to understand the process of communication, it gets more dimensional when you understand more lines than the mind and conceptual setting to its inception. Living inside the mind itself puts everything in its reality put together. That's how you go through three Fibonacci's in set sequence in perimeters through its paradigms of body shifting and track locations of its clocking system. All through together, see? All together, right? You get a 3 lines of angles and line screen adaptation system. Let's get 3 lines of signals, 3 lines of channels, and 3 core centers and Fibonacci settings and travel. Travel line rotations and set track locations, balance and position. All through the mind, all through conception of high position lines of travel. Go through this way. Right? You think it's going back, you think it's going forward. Well, I'm determining what it does because I'm controlling my reality inside my mind into my position. I'm in control of my mind. So I'm in control of the mirrors. I'm in control of dimensions. I'm in control of the galaxies. I'm in control of everything that's inside of me that responds to everything outside of me, inside of me. And that's how you see everything. Your reality, check this out. The reality that you see is all inside you. Strange, isn't it? That's mind-blowing. Now take a minute for that one. That's a lot of question, location, E factors over screen. Everything you see is inside you. And when you let that go, that's the memory of who you are. Yes? That's all it is. Everything that you see is inside your system. So nothing as you see is outside your system. Now, the more you let that go, the more you understand what's going on inside of you. But to understand that Fibonacci, you have to get into the center of operation of its consciousness and setting to travel through a triangulation system. There it is. There's the balance. Now they all work together. See? They travel together, right? Because you start to realize everything around you is inside you. And it starts making sense. It starts making sense and all signals in set position. But you've got to get into the center core. You got to get into the conscious of everything that you brought in through your thoughts, your action, and emotions. And let everything go and just understand it through creating, existing, evolving, and expanding. Okay? And everything is moving all at once. Moving all at once. All timelines, all clocking, all frames, all dimensions, all galaxies, existing and happening and motivating and centralizing and decentralizing and capulating and high position, all operation inside your mind and high track creation, acceleration, all at once, which is amazing. There's a collaboration, there's a partnership with my thoughts, my actions, and my emotions inside of me. This is probably the biggest thing that I can give you guys now. Now, once you start to recognize everything that you see in your environment is inside you, existing all at once, then everything starts to make sense. Because what you are in set position, you're going to love this. Just lines of communication setting, you actually live inside the central cloud of yourself. That's it. You're inside the center of everything. That's what it is. Brain to the membrane. And it just all comes together. So your brain itself, you live in the brain itself, the modification of itself, the modification of the mind of itself, and identified its own self in that position. The brain's not here or there, but there when needed. So what you have to truly stand is invert everything inside the brain that you are, because you live in this central system, which is your cloud, inside your system. Hoo-ah. Okay? Now, once you understand your central system, then you understand your main frame, your central frames, your mystical frames, your track frames, your codecs, and lines of communication set of how to use yourself in your computer system. Once you understand that position locations, this is really powerful stuff. Check this out. You know where your simulation is? Right now, where it is. Everything, your environment, that's the simulation. But the simulation outside you is inside you. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? Isn't that just blowing your mind? So everything's inverted. Check this out. You're here in setting. You're here in setting, right? And you're looking everything through a box frame. Okay, on each angle, each panel, each operation, each mapping sequence, each coordinates, each time, each measure is existing all at once. Okay, so it's looking at you in all ways and forms. Do you know you're inside yourself? Now, once you understand this, guess what happens? Attractions. This is inside you now. You're actually inside the game itself. You're actually inside the game itself. Congratulations. Boom. You're inside. Now you can do anything in center. Now you can do anything in center because you're in the mind itself that operates the set location setting. So the internal and the external is now in the center operation of you, of the game that you're playing, and position the AVR system, which is you in the simulation center. Boom, of everything. Everything, everything, everything existing all at once. Your past, present, and future. Now your body has to adapt to that through its paradigms and its clocking, and its foundation and its grounds. Understanding the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. It's very understanding how everything is inside of you. Hooah. Okay, I know it's just like, okay, let me grasp that for a second. You know? So I'm just trying to help you guys out all through triangulation, all through lines of Fibonacci screens. But everything travels all together, see? It's amazing when you just let everything go and surrender to everything, because all this is inside you, okay? Everything that you see, a version of a phone or how everybody sees you, it's all inside of everything. So it's the multi-levels, it's the multi-dimensional levels, it's the interdimensional system, that's everything is inside your system. The oculars are inside you, actually inside your system. You're not looking anything outside. My hand's not outside of me. My hand's inside, outside of me, inside of me. Okay? Because it's the inversion that you have to understand. And what you have to let go is everything that you see outside, which is clutter. That's it. Nothing else. And you realize it never is clutter. If I just let everything go and I invert my whole system, my whole identity, I lose myself, I find myself, I create myself, I am myself, I start recognizing I'm becoming myself, I'm all modification inside myself, I'm actually living in the imagination of myself inside myself. That's it, nothing else. Hooah. And it gets much easier, okay, instead of you resisting. You can't resist something that you are. And it's the brain to identify your system of who you already are. And then how to use that is in frequencies. So once you understand that you're inside the actual box frame of the center, and you're in your reality through pi, of what you do in a 24 signal, then you truly understand how to modify that through a clocking system, through a foundation system, and truly understand this is how it works inside of you through acceleration and Mach. You're inside. Okay? Now, in that position, you can do whatever you want now because you're inside, which basically brings your reality outside of you. Box frame, main frame, triangulation frame, course frame, communication frames, all set position. So the more yourself is inside yourself, the more lines of communication setting, you start to identify your abundance and your manifestation. Okay, now the outside is you coming inside. So you have to steer all levels how it comes into the lines of link, a direct line of link, lines of data stream location networks that brings everything in frequencies, which you already know. But what you have to identify, everything around you is actually inside of you. Hooah. I know it's a lot to take because what you have to understand, you're seeing everything outside of you, but there's nothing outside. But when you actually know yourself itself is the interdimensional system of its one-dimensional, two-dimensional, into its mind of conception. You start to live the existing of the existence of who you are, of frequencies. You're interdimensional beings of light inside, living inside, trying to understand you from outside. But there's no outside. Outside is inside. Inside is outside. So when you're looking at a window, that window's looking you from inside. And when you're looking at the window, you're looking at that window from outside that's inside you. Okay? That's what it is through attractions. Okay? So be a little bit more understanding now. Is just to let these things go and just understanding on Friday, your connection setting location, that's whatever embedded in your system, will fade away. You start to recognize your brain. You're starting to know how to use it in location through a system. You come into memories that you are and memories that you are not through creation. Your brain is not a creation. Okay? What you created through the brain is its creation that is not its creation. The brain itself is inside itself. That's inside of you. So what you have to understand is very confusing if you don't understand the conceptual location of space and time. The provision lines, the correlation system, the perception set core lines, high track communication system puts everything in lines of position, location, and settings, knowing you're actually living the existing, all of you inside of you. In your realities, in your dimensions, in your portals, in your stargates, in your clockings, in your bodies, in your operation systems. Everything that you see is inside of you. And the more you let it go, the more you have fun. The unifications of your networks is truly understand how to see yourself of who you are, of interdimensional being, of your inner light that puts all communications to balance, of you living the existing, of everything happening once, of the inner child that you are inside of everything. Whoa. Okay? That's what it is. All right? See you in 5.